Hey guys, what's up? So the intro you're hearing right now is not the intro I originally recorded for this video. And in fact, this video was essentially done and dusted, and I was making some final edits, and I realized Silly Dog released a video that was not identical, but very close in tone, and his reasoning was very similar to mine. And I sat on this for a while and I thought, maybe I won't even release this, but I thought I had told some people about this, and I thought it would be, or rather it would make for some interesting discussion. So I've decided to go ahead and release this. So in just a moment, you're gonna hear the original intro. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hey guys, what is up? I am sometimes asked why I don't spend more time invading at meta. And usually what people mean by that is they mean two things. They mean soul level 120 to 133, and then they also typically mean invading at Pontiff or the Ring City, and sometimes you can add the woods into that mix. And the truth is I don't invade those areas very often, certainly not at those soul levels. And I'd like to spend some time talking about my reasoning why. So let me get a couple things out of the way first. First, I want to be super clear. I'm not judging or evaluating other players and their decision to invade at this level or not invade. And for that matter, I'm not really evaluating players who choose to gank or not gank at this level. I'm simply offering my personal reasons why I don't care for invading in these areas at these soul levels. But nothing here should be taken as a criticism of anyone who does choose to invade those areas. And in fact, I really have a lot of respect for people who do that, and in some sense I think it makes them more resilient players than me. I'm also not saying I never invade these areas or I never will. I do sometimes, most often when somebody I know is streaming there, I'm trying to snipe them or I'm trying to get a co-invasion, but just in general on my own, I won't pick these areas to invade. So my first reason isn't really a reason that I avoid it as much as it's a reason that I consider other areas sort of equally eligible. There seems to be this persistent attitude or approach that true PvP players go to meta and only PvEers play at lower levels. And so if you want a meaningful fight where you're not going to just wipe the floor with a PvEer, then you need to go to meta. And there is a certain amount of truth in this, but not nearly as much as there used to be. I think back in 2016 and 2017, this was definitely the case. Nowadays, people are at all levels of varying skill and ability. And when I invade meta versus when I invade, let's say, soul level 90, I don't see a meaningful difference in skill or builds or PvP knowledge. I'm not saying there's no difference. There is still a difference, but the difference is quite slight. And if I invade at soul level 90, I run into tons of organized ganks. I run into tons of players who know what they're doing, who know how to play. The majority of people that are still playing the game at this point, you run into them at soul level 90, they're probably making a new build, but it's probably their 30th build. I mean, everybody that's left at this point is pretty much a tryhard of one kind or another, and everybody is really experienced, and it's very unusual to run into totally green players that are playing the game through for the first time. So my first main reason for avoiding meta Pontiff and meta Ring City is I play on PC, and when you play on PC, these areas are replete with cheaters. There's just no two ways about it. Now, the cheating problem on PC is often exaggerated. I find frequently, most often, by people who don't actually play on PC and they're just repeating things that they heard. Cheating, frankly, is not a big problem on PC, except when you're at Ring City and Pontiff, and there it's a huge, huge problem. And unfortunately, because it's such a problem, most players don't play there on PC, which means the only players left are the cheaters. It's very, very common to encounter cheating on PC, and those are just the obvious kinds. I'm sure there's more subtle forms of cheating that go on at Pontiff that I'm not even aware of. So this makes invading on PC at meta pretty much a non-starter on PC. Now on PS4, obviously this isn't as big a consideration, and if this were the only reason, then I would just not do it on PC and I would do it on PS4. So my next reason has to do with the use of glitches. Now, glitches are unfortunately part of the game these days, and they come in different shapes and sizes. And while it's true that you can certainly encounter people abusing glitches in any level, they are by far most common at meta Pontiff. When it comes to like bow glitching, I'll usually black crystal and block the player. I run into a lot of over-leveled summon glitchers, but by far actually the thing that annoys me the most is the FAP ring glitching. So if you're fortunate enough, you take out a host phantoms, and then the host goes in FAP glitches and essentially does laps around Pontiff, waiting either for Wave Blue or waiting for the summon signs to show up. And it's just not a fun way to play the game. It's completely broken. There's really no counter for it. The only thing that you can do is FAP glitch yourself and try to keep up with them, but then you expose yourself to intermittent turn and burns, which of course you have no way of predicting when they're coming, and you can get caught in your menu. And it's a very frustrating way to play the game, and so I just choose not to interact with people who play that way. So another issue has to do with the reliance on good co-invaders, and the composition of both co-invaders and ganks has changed a lot over the years. So first of all, there's fewer good co-invaders to co-invade with, and against these stronger ganks, you almost have to have somebody with you who's really strong, or at least at a minimum doesn't die. And this is related to the fact that a lot of the Reds, I think, who have gotten frustrated with the invasion scene at Pontiff have sort of thrown in the towel, and they are now gankers themselves. And so this creates two problems. First of all, it makes the gank stronger on average, and it means that your co-invaders are weaker on average. And so this has sort of a cascading effect that causes more Reds to give up, causes worse Reds to come in, and now we're kind of in the endgame situation where the roles have almost completely reversed, whereas it used to be the case that gankers were really inexperienced and the Reds tended to be really good. You have almost the inverse experience, or the inverse situation in many situations now. Also, in part due to the age of the game, gankers aren't ganking with randoms anymore. At least they're doing it very infrequently. So when you run into an organized gank, it is quite organized. The people are summoned by password, which means over-leveled summons, even if they're not glitching, just the standard over-levels tend to be a lot more common because, again, they're password summoned. And not only do these players play together a lot, but their builds are tailored not only to be optimized, but to be optimized within the context of a specific gank. So you've got the mage in the back, you've got one or two people that have miracle builds, so they're casting lightning arrow, or they're casting team heals. You've got people that are trying to run you down with things like spears, and you've got the ultra great player. And so the gank as a whole has a lot of synergy and is very efficient at cutting down invaders. And then I think one of the last points, I think I prefer organic invasions, which isn't to say that I want to fight against inexperienced PvEers, but I do want to invade in a situation where the gank or the group of players is motivated to do something other than stand around and wait for me to get bored. I want them to have a goal other than me. I want them to be trying to beat the level. I want them to be playing the game when I invade them. Those are the kinds of invasions that I frankly prefer. The game is structured to put invaders at a huge disadvantage, and I'm okay with that. I think that's actually the way that the game should be. But the game puts invaders at a disadvantage precisely because it makes a few assumptions. First, it assumes that the host is actually trying to advance through the level and is trying to accomplish a goal, and that that's going to cost them resources they don't get to spend entirely fighting invaders. And it also subtly assumes that the invaders are going to be much more skillful than the host. Because in order to beat a host, you not only have to be more skillful, you have to be a lot more skillful. And that goes especially true as the gank sizes up. And as the gank sizes up and gains experience, the difficulty of the gank doesn't scale linearly. It tends to scale exponentially. You need gankers to make a lot of mistakes, and they have to be mistakes made one after another in order to start killing people. And when they don't make those kinds of mistakes and they cover well for one another and they tend to stand around in a group, it can make those sorts of situations almost impossible. Now, of course, they're not impossible, and I had to seriously ask myself, whether my real objection to fighting ganks was just that I lost more often. And I stopped and I thought about that a lot, and I don't mind losing. Losing's a part of the game. I don't mind losing. I just hate losing in really frustrating ways. And if I'm having fun, so if I'm fighting really good players, I'm fine with losing because I'm learning something and I'm really engaged, and that's great. But when I'm losing a lot and I'm not having fun with the fights, and I'm chasing people around because they're FAP glitching, trying to avoid me to run back to the bonfire to resummon, that's just not a fun game for me to play. So I'm curious what other players have to say about this. I know a lot of players that I respect a great deal have told me that playing at Pontiff and Ring City is one of the reasons they got as good as they did, and I definitely believe that, and I feel like maybe I'm giving something up there. But at the same time, I engage in a lot of dried finger runs and streaming events where the average quality of play is very high, and I don't mind that, and I certainly lose in those situations a lot, but I feel like that's enough to help keep my skills sharp, that I don't necessarily have to rely on invading in these incredibly frustrating situations. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care.